What's going on, everybody? We are at the Toronto Sports Card Expo. This is day 3 now. We are at the Canada Sports Cards booth. Oh, it's early, man. We're still booking. I'm excited to introduce Mitch Gropman from Gropman Cards. If you guys collect hockey, I mean, even if you don't, some of his pieces are unbelievable. It's not just the fact that some of them are higher ticket items. It's the fact that each item, I feel like, is curated specifically. It's not like, oh yeah, I kind of like that. Everything is very direct. You have like a game plan when it comes to your buying. I love that. And I mean, we'll find out a little bit more about you, but I have a feeling you don't really flip any of those, or they're kind of mainstays. So first of all, Mitch, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about some of like your curated buys. So first of all, how do you determine what you're buying?
Yes, so these, I used to be a lot more broad with what I bought over the years. So I've been collecting for over 20 years at this point, because my dad actually owned a big card distributor in the 90s.
Really?
So I kind of was...
What distributor?
I was called Card World Distributors, the original Card World before Dave and Adams.
Yeah.
So I was kind of born into it. Like, I don't know a world without hockey cards. So I kind of had a big leg up in terms of collecting.
Yeah.
So growing up in seeing the kind of the end of the 90s in the card world, I saw these warehouses just, when you actually see cards in the hundreds of thousands, it kind of gives you a deeper sense of what the importance of scarcity is.
Yeah. So
because I was surrounded, I could sometimes see the card companies would send my dad, here's 10,000 cases of this product, and I'm like, if there's that many of them, like, how special can this card be?
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of very iconic cards that, like Gretzky's rookie, there's tens of thousands of those.
So many.
But in terms of me specifically, I always was attracted to cards that I didn't see all the time. So when the Cup came out in 2006, my dad kind of said to me, like, hey, like, this is unlike anything we've seen. I have him to thank for a lot of how my collecting approach has changed.
Yeah.
And, right from 2006, we were collecting it. So the first set we built together was the 0506 The Cup Signature Patches set, which to this day is one of my favorite sets ever made. And it took us 3 years, and we completed that. And then Completed it, yep. I've since completed the 0607 one as well. And, as the years went by and, Upper Deck kept producing the Cup, I kind of always felt like those first couple of years that were created by Carvin Chung, those to me, always stuck out. And I think as long as the league tells Upper Deck that they can't make a better product than the Cup, to me, it makes the most sense to me to chase after those cards specifically. And as the years went by, I'd pick up cards that didn't really fit my collection at all, and I just kind of said, like, if I keep doing this, it's going to be, I'm going to have less funds available for the cards that I really do want.
When they do come up, because they don't come up very frequently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I just kind of had to eventually tell myself, okay, I don't need this, and then over the last 4 or 5 years, really, I've kind of just said, like, okay, this is what I really want, and when those cards come up, I do whatever I can to make sure I grab them.
How do you stay consistent when, like, aren't there instances where you're like, man, I feel like I haven't bought anything in like months? Isn't there like an inclination to, like, oh, this is a good price, like, I'll grab this?
Yes. So, there's definitely been lulls, and definitely I'm more inclined to purchase things that are more outside of the scope of what I'm collecting at those times. But then, I guess, experience is the best teacher, and I've done that enough times over the years, and then been like, why did I buy this?
And then you're like stuck with something.
And then I gotta sell it later. So I just kind of, I reflect on those purchases more and more when those opportunities happen. And then I just tell myself, I'm really not someone who's in the hobby for money at all.
Yeah.
So it's easier for me to pass on what's an easy flip.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I find that sometimes, because I'm building a few sets too. And I mean, not quite to the extent that you are, but those tougher to find sets, those tougher to find cards. You know, you go through a few months of not buying. You're like, I almost feel like I'm not really engaging with like the cards themselves. I guess you own them, but like you feel like you're not really making much progress in your pursuit of like acquiring this set. I mean, maybe it's just like some subconscious like FOMO, or I don't know what it is for me, but.
Well, I guess for me, I never feel disengaged because, I mean, honestly, the way that I hunt for cards, my fiance thinks it's a mental illness.
Yeah?
Yeah, like
Really?
I really will go to any length to find these cards that I'm after, especially when I'm chasing sets. Like this year I completed the 06-07 Cup Signature Patches set, and I couldn't find Dominic Hasek anywhere. I went on the Czech version of Craigslist, and I found it there, and I reached out to a Czech person in the hobby. I was like, can you translate and facilitate buying this in some small town in the Czech Republic, and I'll pay for all of it. And I actually got it that way.
Yeah?
I had no idea if he would actually send me the card.
Yeah.
And luckily it came up. It was a guy on Facebook with like no profile picture.
That's crazy.
And it took like 2 months, but I got the card.
Did you send you like tracking? Or was it just like?
Yeah, he sent me a Czech tracking number.
You're just praying.
The whole deal was done
praying.
in Czech.
Yeah.
I used a lot of Google Translate.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
How did you just transferred them funds and like?
Yeah, I PayPal
Go for
them.
it.
Yeah, I said, here's the money. Please send me the card. And I got lucky. He sent it to me.
At least it's through PayPal, right? Like you could have got it back to a certain
Sure,
extent.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, but still, man, that's hilarious. So I mean, to that note, what do you think your most interesting like buying story is? Like what's one that really stands out for you? I mean, aside from the Hasek.
Yeah, I was gonna if you asked me before I told you that
Would've
story,
been the
I probably
Hasek?
would have told you
Okay,
that story.
I mean,
But I've had okay, I'll tell you. Earlier this year, there was a big auction on Classic Auctions. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They do mostly like really like crazy hockey memorabilia, but they do a couple cards. Like a lot of them are just big lots.
Yeah.
So one of the cards in this lot of hockey cards was a 05-06 Cup Frank Mahavlich limited logos, and he only has one of them, and it's out of 20. And I believe so.
Now starting in the photo op with Dave Keon. If you have a Dave Keon photo op, please make your way over to the photo op booth. Once again, if you have a Dave Keon photo op, please make your way to the photo op area. Thank you.
So a lot of the 05-06 limited logos were thrown away before pack out because the autographs were printed on the wrong gloss.
Really?
So they bubbled up too much, and Carvin decided, these don't look good enough to pack out. So Frank Mahavlich, a lot of the older guys with the big, long autographs, those are most of the ones that got thrown away. So it's out of 20. I've seen 2 copies ever. So I bet more than half of them were thrown away.
Wow.
So in my head, I'm like, I have to buy this 70 card lot to get this Frank Mahavlich.
Yeah.
So I ended up buying 70 cards just to get the one card, and then I'm like, I'll sell the other 69.
Yeah.
Nice. And then
How was that in terms of selling them?
I've sold like 30 of them.
And that was this year.
This year, yeah.
Yeah.
So I still have like 40 cards that I need to sell, and I bought just to get this one card. Which I know is like crazy, but in my head I'm like, if I don't buy this lot, I'm never going to get the Mahavlich for the set.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing, if it's the right card, that's what I'll do.
I like set collecting, you know what I mean? And I like talking to set collectors because I feel like it's very. I mean, I was just talking about how do you not stray, but I mean it's very easy to like stay focused to a certain extent, right? You're like, I know exactly what I need. I know I can pace myself for this. I mean, unfortunately, in the case of like some of the stuff that you're acquiring, it's super short printed. When it comes up, you kind of have to be ready and available. How do you find, like is there like some sort of cash flow situation that you're like, okay, I got this amount allocated towards sports cards, and like, do you ever find a card is like outside your budget and you have to like pass on it?
Yeah, so I'll back up a little bit.
Yeah.
So, when I was younger, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I was not as much of a set collector.
Yeah.
So I built the 0506 signature patches set, and I built like a couple like smaller sets, but I was really a like Martin Brodeur super collector.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but as you get to a certain point, and I know like a lot of people, like I would say more than set collectors are player collectors.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like I wasn't feeling like I was making any progress. Like when I had 300 Brodeur cards,
And they just
and then I had 400,
Yeah.
I'm like, what's really the difference? Now it's like
Yeah.
there's thousands of cards.
Yeah.
I'll never have even 80% of them.
especially if they keep releasing.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
So I wasn't really getting that sense of accomplishment. And then when I finished the signature patches set, when I got that last card, it was so much better of a feeling than I ever had player collecting.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of a
It's
light
just like
bulb.
the euphoric.
Yeah, it was. So that was
like close the book on
exactly.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that
Yeah.
sense of accomplishment was so much better than I ever had when I was player collecting.
Yeah.
And I think probably like that day I decided like, okay, I'm done player collecting. Set collecting feels way better.
I mean, that's a pretty big day, though. I mean, you literally completed
yeah,
the
no, it was-
506 signature series.
it was great.
That's a big deal,
No,
man.
it was awesome.
You're like, in this moment, I'm never going back.
So in terms of cash flow, though,
Yeah.
I'm very lucky because I bought most of these cards. They were so cheap.
Yeah.
So like my 0506 Cup Ovechkin signature patches, I had 4 of them, and I paid like between $200 and $300 a card.
Wild.
And then I sold one of them to a good friend of mine 2 years ago for 6,000 USD, and it's like, and so because I bought so many of these when they were very cheap, it's made it so much easier to collect today.
And so you just kind of like that's your fund essentially.
Exactly,
Right? That's
yeah.
that's such a good
I'm
idea.
I'm
yeah.
not a rich guy.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
don't have like something where I get like
Yeah,
tons of
yeah.
money funneling.
Just
But,
funneled, yeah.
Yeah, but luckily like most of the cards that I bought when I was younger have like 10x.
Yeah.
So I'm just super
Yeah.
lucky that I bought them.
and you weren't as what's the word I'm looking for? You weren't as concise with what you were buying, right?
Yeah.
So like, and now it's like very focused. So you're like, I have all this stuff. It's all kind of like 5 or 10x. I'm like, guess what? I don't really want this. It doesn't serve my collection. I can take those funds and put that into like a much more like finite goal.
Yeah, exactly. And I've just been very fortunate that the things that I thought were super cool 10 years ago, that the hobby didn't really appreciate that much. I mean, even in Ovechkin rookie limited logos, game used, that was a $400 card.
Wild.
As 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so even, cards like that, like I bought them, and then I'm lucky that the hobby kind of caught up to my taste.
Yeah.
And then that's been a big chunk, the biggest chunk by far, of the funds that I'm able to put back into it, and then get the cards that I've decided today are the ones that I want in my collection.
That's amazing. If there's someone out there that doesn't really know what set speaks to them or what type of collecting speaks to them, like what could you tell? Like what advice could you give them?
It depends, what you want. If you want to set collect in such a way that you hope that your collection will be worth a lot more in the future, then I would say scarcity is going to be your best friend. Think about things that might be important to the hobby in a long time. What are they not making anymore? So I told you before we started going that I was collecting the jersey numbered all-time Future Watch cards, and that's one of the only ultra-modern sets that I've decided, okay, these seem special to me, because Upper
It's
Deck...
funny, when that box came out, it wasn't really well received. People just really didn't know what to do with it.
No. And if you look at, you can kind of look at history to kind of predict the future.
Yeah.
Upper Deck, every couple of years, they release a new kind of Legends set.
Yeah.
They've never done it twice except for Chronology. They did the Volume 1 and Volume 2.
Yeah.
But you look at 0405, they did Legends.
Yeah.
And then 0809, they did Legends Masterpieces. And then they did Chronology. Oh, and then they did another 1415 Legends as well.
Yeah.
But It seems like, I hope that this is true.
But
they're-
even if you get the first set, though, I mean, there's something to be
Yes,
said about the first,
absolutely.
right? So that's
Yeah.
like, even if there isn't like scarcity like forever for this set, this is still the first set. Like, if we look at basketball, for instance, 2020 or 2012 Prism is forever going to be
Yeah,
iconic because it's the first set. I mean, we've seen Tom Brady 2012 Prism cards go for ridiculous amounts of money because it's like the first Prism, right? So
yeah, we've been really lucky as a hobby that a lot of these first sets have been blessed with amazing rookie crops.
Yeah.
Like 0506 hockey, you got the first year of the Cup, you get the Crosby and Ovechkin dual class. 12-13 in basketball.
There's a lot of guys in that set that are like, I mean, Lundqvist is getting inducted to the Hall of Fame too,
yeah,
right?
Lundqvist.
Getzlav,
At the time, there were so many players that were big players at the time. Like Phaneuf was a huge card at the time.
Yeah, massive.
Mike Richards was big at the time.
Yeah,
Jeff Carter, Corey Perry.
Yeah, Zach Parise.
Cam Ward was a big one.
Yeah.
So you had all because
Cam
you had
Barker was drafted like 5th overall.
he was way higher.
Duncan Keith is in that set
Duncan,
too.
Duncan Keith's in the set. He was a 03 draft pick, I think.
Yeah.
And then Seabrook too.
Yeah.
So maybe a good tip, if there's ever another lockout, buy the product that comes out after that.
Yeah.
Because you have the same thing in
get a double
basketball
rookie class.
with the 12-13 basketball
you're
sets.
Right, you're right.
They're always big rookie crops.
You're right.
So
well, because it's, I guess, two whole years.
exactly,
right?
yeah. So I guess probably the next time there's a
hope there's a
lockout.
lockout.
Yeah. And then after that, there's probably going to be some good products.
Yeah. That's smart. Awesome.
Yeah.
Mitch, where can everyone find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they reach out to you? Maybe if they have something that you need for your collection.
Sure. So my main Instagram account is at. I'll wait for the announcement.
We got this.
We will have the 3-leaf captains. If you have a photo up for the 3-leaf captains, please make your way over to that area.
I wonder if it's.
Photos. Once again,
I wonder how much of that it gets picked up.
I don't know.
Captains photo shoot.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Okay, so if the easiest way to reach me is on my main Instagram account at Gropman Cards. I also run an account called the Hockey Hall of Fame, or Hockey Card Hall of Fame, where I just post what I think are like some of the best cards ever made. Just kind of like a way to run an account called Fake Hockey Patches, where I document cards that have been altered in terms of the material inside the card. And then I also run a Facebook group that's specifically for Cup cards. So if you search that up, Upper Deck the Cup Buy Sell Trade. If you just want to look at Cup cards, you can reach me on there as well.
Mitch, I want to thank you so much for jumping on here
Yeah,
and
thanks for
educating
having me.
people about not only what you like, but maybe push them in the direction to figure out what they like. So,
Yeah.
and I got to know you better as well. So, I really
thank you
appreciate
so much
man.
for having me.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Take care. Great job, guys.